So, hello everyone, good day. My name is Alexa Marie G. Tribunalo from BEd 3, and today we are going to share with you some of the advantages of traditional classroom learning. Okay, why is traditional education more viable? So, students can collaborate face-to-face while learning in a typical classroom setting. It is more straightforward and aids in the development of social skills that are crucial for later life. Their general confidence and drive to do more are also increased when they are working in a physical environment as a group. So, one advantage of traditional classroom instruction is that it promotes or it helps promote social interaction and organized skills development in collaborative learning. So, to be exact, social contact and plans of the development of collaborative learning skills. So, social interaction is ingrained in the classroom structure since it is a component of every reading approach. So, students who connect with others are more likely to read, conclude, summarize, and ask questions among other things. So therefore, when working in groups, we will be able to do more quite rapidly and more precisely with the aid of the social traditional learning approach. Students develop more ideas, contribute more, and take bigger intellectual risks when they collaborate in groups. Learning alongside others will be more successful for students than learning alone. So when we say what does collaborative learning means? So in a traditional classroom setting, learning is deeper when it occurs during active, social, contextual, engaging, and student-owned educational situations. The development of spoken communication, self-management, and leadership abilities are among the advantages of collaborative learning. So the phrase collaborative learning serves as a catch-all for a range of pedagogical strategies that entails students and teachers combined intellectual work. So students typically work in groups of 2 or more, looking together for understanding, answers, or meanings, or producing a product. Although there are many different types of collaborative learning, the most focus on students' inquiry or application of the course information, not just the presentation or explanation of it by the teacher. So, though collaborative learning takes on a variety of forms and is practiced by teachers of different disciplinary backgrounds and teaching traditions, the field is tied together by a number of important assumptions about learners and the learning process. So, despite the fact that teachers from many academic fields and teaching traditions use collaborative learning in a variety of ways, the area is united by a number of crucial presumptions about students and the learning process. So that would be all from me. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have gained something.
Everyone, this is Miran Avlansa. For this video, I am going to share you about my assigned topic. Okay, now, traditional and person. So, classroom education needs to enhance the quick study, memorization, and retention of learning mathematics. Why? It is very important to enhance the quick study and memorization because it helps to the student to get rid of their fears regarding sa exams, which can rarely happen with online guidance. And lastly, interaction with the good teachers help motivate students to achieve higher marks. And also, ilahang memorya, no? Ilahang pag-develop sa ilang memorya not only takes you back to experiences that hold meaning, but it is a complex cognitive ability that is important in many aspects of thinking and learning, such as language and literacy, planning, following direction, problem solving, reflecting, imagining, and overall ability to form a positive.
Hello everyone, this is Annalyn Barbadillo. Today, I will be tackle about the 21st century learning. So, in traditional classroom, learning is more result-oriented for school children than online distance education because in a traditional classroom, students have an interact together, they asking questions and sharing ideas. In 21st century, here are 5 of the most important teaching strategies. So the first one, we have teaching strategies to be able to teach to all learners. In 21st century, classrooms have learned that students learn best when they are taught to their own unique style and ability. The second one, be able to implement technology. The ability to not only learn about the new educational gadgets that will help students learn better and faster, but to also have the ability to know how to use and implement the gadgets within the classroom is an essential skills of a 21st century. The third one, be able to foster student relationships. An effective teacher will have the ability to facilitate interpersonal relationships within the classroom so that students will have a sense of community and be able to communicate. The fourth one will be forward thinking. In 21st century is able to anticipate the future and plan for it. They are able to push their students to ensure that they will be able to navigate their way through this ever-changing technological world. And lastly, be able to embrace change. The ability to embrace change is an essential characteristic of a 21st century teacher. With the rapid changes in technology and the way the students learn, educators must be able to embrace change and adapt.
Traditional is adaptable to different teaching methods and instructional styles and facilities close monitoring. Traditional teaching methods focus on the teacher as a controller of the student's environment. The responsibility rests with the teacher and the methods and strategies to be used in teaching his or her students. In this situation, there is a greater possibility of showing and honing the hidden talents of the students because they can be monitored correctly by their teacher. There are some who say that this teaching method is a spoon feeding of knowledge. This includes the use of various educational books as a basis for learning and even teaching. Various books that are sources of information for teachers to share with their students. This includes the teacher manually writing on the blackboard what they will discuss. The use of colorful and creative visual aids is their weapon. This is where the normal classroom arrangement takes place, where the teacher speaks at the front and the student listen in their seats. Using the traditional teaching method, the teacher teaches his student not only in the academic field but also in the right behavior because the target that the student should get is not only academic but also focus on the correct behavior of the students. Because of this, the communicative ability of the student is expanded.
Good day everyone, I am Mark Briones of BA3 and I'll be the one to discuss about the learning environment in traditional education. So after several conversations, and sharing of opinions and factual information, me and my group concluded that the learning environment in a traditional education helps stimulates and motivates students to learn. Yes, it is normal that a learning environment must help motivate the students' willingness to learn. But in traditional education, it utilizes the concept of collaborative learning. Collaborative learning revolves around the concept of social interaction as an essential factor when it comes to learning. A collaboration-centered learning environment allows students to interact with one another, compare ideas, paving way to the creation of new ideas based on their acquired information from other students, making the learnings unique to them. This learning environment also promotes these 5 essential skills for students to learn in a collaborative learning-centered environment, which are first, collaboration, second, coordination or teamwork, third, competitiveness, fourth, communication or social interaction, and fifth, lastly, especially, leadership, as one must lead the pack to attain the first 4 essential skills. Traditional classroom teaching environment increases interaction among students and provides conducive environment to learn fellow students. It also encourages higher level of competitiveness among students. The social environment at a traditional school is perfect to build a child's character and personality. Now that we've covered a lot of aspects about traditional education, let's talk about the different teaching strategies that were commonly used during the reign of traditional education. So for teaching strategies, we found out that there are 5 common teaching strategies in traditional education, and these are mnemonics, explicit teaching, direct instruction, space practice, and purposeful practice. First is a mnemonic. A mnemonic is an instructional strategy created to improve retention and recall of information through the use of visual or auditory clues. These clues improve students' ability to make connections between their existing knowledge and new information. There are a lot of popular mnemonic terms in different subjects in elementary. Example, in arts we have Roy G. Biv, which means or which represents the color sequence in a rainbow. In music, we have Every Good Boy Does Fine and FACE or FACE, which represents the lines and spaces. In math, we have PEMDAS, the sequence of operation used to solve an equation. PEMDAS stands for parentheses, exponent, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. These terms help students retain the meaningful information given to them. Next teaching strategy is explicit teaching. In a highly structured setting, explicit teaching entails focusing students' attention on particular learning. Specific learning outcomes are the main goal of teaching. Smaller components of topics and materials are taught separately. This strategy involves explanation, demonstration, and practice. In short, information are broken down into pieces for students to study each components separately. Next teaching strategy that is common in traditional education is direct instruction. A teacher-directed teaching strategy is direct instruction. This strategy implies that the instructor provides the material to the students while standing in front of them. The pupils receive clear directions and instructions from the teachers. The evidence unequivocally demonstrates that direct instruction is superior to alternative educational programs in terms of effectiveness and that these advantages last until high school. Students of various talents, levels, and social backgrounds experience the favorable outcomes. The direct instruction method is based on 2 core principles, which are all students can learn when taught correctly, regardless of history and background. And second, all teachers can be successful, given effective materials and presentation technique. The fourth common teaching strategy in traditional education is called as distributed practice. Distributed practice is a learning strategy where practice is broken up into a number of short sessions over a longer period of time. The concept of spaced practice, also known as distributed practice, holds that practicing a specific skill or recalling a specific piece of knowledge is more successful when done gradually across time rather than repeatedly over a short amount of time. This is known as spaced practice or distributed practice. By spacing learning activities out over time, for example, 1 to 2 hours every other day or at least once per week, rather than a 12-hour marathon cramming session, the students will be able to learn more about the information and retain it longer. Last common teaching strategy in traditional education is purposeful practice. Purposeful practice is all about putting a bunch of baby steps together to reach a longer-term goal. Feedback tells you what steps to take. When a teacher fosters learning environments that support students in deriving personal meaning from the concepts and subjects covered in class, they are engaging their students in purposeful learning. The didactic technique, which employs the practical case method, is modified from the approaches utilized in moral education. Several qualities must exist for practice to serve a function. It must have a clear objective or function. It has clarity. The student is given criticism. The student is forced to step outside of their comfort zone. Now that we are done talking about the different teaching strategies commonly used in traditional education, let us now talk about the different learning materials that are commonly used in traditional education. We all know as future educators that learning materials are very important because it helps us deliver the lessons properly and clearly. In traditional education, the usual traditional teaching aids are blackboards, textbooks, charts, pictures, posters, maps, atlases, globes, flashcards, flip cards, worksheets, science lab apparatus, and materials. The traditional approach mostly uses textbooks, but the current approach, also known as the 21st century education, uses hands-on materials, as opposed to the current approach which starts with the whole before moving to the components. The old method, also known as the traditional education, starts with the parts before moving on to the whole. We can easily conclude by those statements that traditional education utilizes these learning materials in inductive manner, meaning lesson starts from the smaller concept up to the bigger and main concept. Now that we are done with the different learning materials, learning environment, and teaching strategies commonly used in traditional education, let us move out to the next topic, in which we will talk about the literacies developed in the traditional education. When it comes to literacies developed, the traditional education mainly focuses on the concept of fundamental skills, which is the ability to read and write, or the ability to use language, to read, write, listen, and speak. Others also said that traditional education utilizes the 3 R's in their focus of education, which are writing, reading, and arithmetic. Reading on a page, or decoding and making sense of words, pictures, and other stuff that a reader may connect together and then begin to comprehend, are all parts of foundational or traditional literacy. They appear in textbooks, novels, standardized tests, and even comic books, which students read and study in great detail. We can also easily say that literacies developed in traditional education are not as advanced if we compare it with today's literacies. But those literacies during the reign of traditional education serves as the foundation in creating these new literacies in the 21st century education. Without those literacies developed during the traditional education era, gaining new literacies is quite impossible. We're already done with the literacies developed in traditional education. But how does traditional education develop those different literacies? Yes, very good. They develop it through teaching and providing assessment. Now, in this topic, we will talk about the different assessment used in traditional education. Traditional assessment evaluates the learning and retaining capacity of a child. It analyzes how much of the provided material or syllabus has been acquired by the student. It also helps educators or teachers to compare the performance of different students. A child's ability to learn and retain information is assessed using traditional methods. It examines how much of the course or material or syllabus the student has actually learned, comparing the accomplishment of other students, age educators, and teachers as well. We now then can conclude that assessments in traditional education mainly focuses on the cognitive aspects of the students, meaning to say, learnings are not quite meaningful as they are only and mainly taught to memorize the information given to them and not interpret them into their own understanding. And those are our insights about traditional education. For conclusion, we can easily say that traditional education is way more outdated compared to 21st century education. But without traditional education, 21st century education wouldn't be created. Traditional education provided the blueprint for the 21st century education to follow, in which it gives the details on which part or field should the 21st century education must give importance. Traditional education sets out the foundation of education for 21st century education to follow and improve, giving birth to the new literacies that is perfect in this new era. And with that being said, that concludes our report. But before we end this video, let me share with you a quote that for me represents the connection between the traditional education, which I refer as the old method of instruction, and 21st century education, which I refer to as the present method of instruction. It is a quote from Master Oogway from Kung Fu Panda.
Saying, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. That is why it is called the present.
Thank you guys for watching. Have a safe day. And also, by the way, we will also include our references in the next slide. Thank you.